Someday, I'm gonna change the world.
We all know about predictive programming. It's like The Simpsons predicts everything. But it's not a prediction. It's just an agenda. They are showing us things that are going to happen in the future because it's an agenda that's playing out. Let's take a look at this magazine cover. This is from 1988, The Economist. Get ready for a world currency. The magazine cover shows a phoenix bird rising from the ashes of burning American money. At the center of the page, a bronze coin engraved with the words, 10 Phoenix 2018 shines bright. The cover advertises the magazine's leading story, in which the author suggests a single unified currency could ease international financial woes. The article's author, anonymous behind an editorial team alias, envisages a modern world connected like never before. Instead of the yen or dollar or rupee, the phoenix coin would dominate. There would be no need for expensive international currency transfers or cumbersome money wires. Everyone would be using the same coin, the phoenix coin. Check this out. I want you to take note of this logo, okay? When the movie Interstellar rolled out, the same logo was on the front cover of this movie. Now, what a lot of people don't know is this is the same logo for Stellar, or XLM, which is a cryptocurrency. So think about this for a second. In the second movie cover, Interstellar, they have Stellar highlighted right here. So what do you think they're trying to tell you? Take another look. Maybe it's just a coincidence, or maybe it's predictive programming at its finest. Predictive programming is a theory that the government or other higher-ups are using fictional movies or books as a mass mind control tool to make the population more accepting of planned future events. This was first described and proposed by researcher Alan Watt, who defines predictive programming as predictive programming is a subtle form of psychological conditioning provided by the media to acquaint the public with planned societal changes to be implemented by our leaders. If and when these changes are put through, the public will already be familiarized with them and will accept them as natural progressions, thus lessening possible public resistance and commotion. The most notable cases of predictive programming are the examples found in The Simpsons, The Dark Knight Rises, The Hunger Games, and The Oldest Being from Futility. 30 years from now, Americans, Japanese, Europeans, and people in many other rich countries and some relatively poor ones will probably be paying for their shopping with the same currency. Prices will not be quoted in dollars, yen, or D-marks, but in, let's say, the Phoenix. The Phoenix will be favored by companies and shoppers because it will be more convenient than today's national currencies, which by then will seem a quaint cause of much disruption to economic life in the late 20th century, says the first paragraph of the article. The Phoenix Zone would impose tight constraints on national governments. There would be no such thing, for instance, as national monetary policy. The world Phoenix supply would be fixed by a new central bank, descended perhaps from the IMF. The world inflation rate, and hence, within narrow margins, each national inflation rate, would be in its charge. Each country could use taxes and public spending to offset temporary falls in demand, but it would have to borrow rather than print money to finance its budget deficit. With no recourse to the inflation tax, governments and their creditors would be forced to judge their borrowing and lending plans more carefully than they do today. This means a big loss of economic sovereignty. But the trends that make the Phoenix so appealing are taking that sovereignty away in any case. Now listen to this. The Phoenix would probably start as a cocktail of national currencies, just as the special drawing right is today. In time, though, its value against national currencies would cease to matter, because people would choose it for its convenience and the stability of its purchasing power. And now, the most important part. The alternative, to preserve policymaking autonomy, would involve a new proliferation of truly draconian controls on trade and capital flows. This course offers governments a splendid time. They could manage exchange rate movements, deploy monetary and fiscal policy without inhibition. It is a growth-crippling prospect. Pencil in the Phoenix for around 2018, and welcome it when it comes. Interesting, huh?
XLM holders' new documents show Stellar is the UN's chosen one. Yes, the United Nations. Consider smashing that like. If I have to earn it, I think I will. And if you find a lot of value in this, consider using some of your hype points. They're free points that you get on your phone with YouTube every month. If I need to knock it out of the park, I think I will. But nonetheless, let's jump into this from Smoke. Give him a follow over at SMQKEDQG. He says, in case you missed it, the United Nations confirms Ripple and Stellar's role in the new financial system. The reason why I'm sharing this is because there's people in the community that are resharing this. And in fact, 2 hours ago, like it points out from XRP Planet, the UN confirms Ripple and Stellar as the foundation for the new financial system. So I want to point out that I have brand new updates that's going to expand upon this that I haven't seen anybody really share. So I hope you appreciate some of the brand new updates. Call it breaking, call it whatever you want. So for one, this clip comes from the United Nations Capital Development Fund webinar. They describe an open and regulated payment internetwork that allows payments to anyone, anywhere, on any network, emphasizing interoperability. Ripple and Stellar are directly mentioned and clearly shown in the international payments diagram as central parts of the global payments network. So I want you guys to think about that. Obviously, this video is not focused on Ripple. Nothing against it. How many times do I cover XRP almost on a daily basis? But let's put some more emphasis on Stellar, and you're going to quickly see why this is under 1 minute. A lot of you guys who are the OGs are going to say, oh, I already seen this back in 1492 when Columbus sailed the ocean blue. Well, guess what? There's a whole new wave of people here. You can have a refresher. And for everybody that's new who hasn't seen this, I want to show you this. And again, for some of you guys who just want the new information, it's in the video. But you got to stick to the end for you can see those brand new updates. So let's play this 1 minute, and we'll be right back. Here we go.
All of the existing networks. And this is kind of what it would look like. It's not a new system, but it connects existing systems. So no matter whether it is incumbents like Swift, Visa, MasterCard, or some of the newer networks like Ripple, Stellar, Celo, a payment should be able to go from one to another. So we see this happening in 3 phases. The first is account addressing. So this is a global directory that would allow you to address a payment in the same way you have an email address. The second is tokenized compliance, reducing or rather finding efficiencies in compliance to reduce the cost. And the third is real-time settlement of funds.
So that's a great example. Getting more into this, I want to give you guys, as I would say, kind of like a paper trail of why we do these type of outlines.
After these messages, we'll be right back. Yeah.
I have many friends that are earning every single day trading futures on BTCC. It's a simple process, and even if you don't want to learn how to trade, you could follow a trader on the site and let him do the trading for you. And again, I'm not trying to have any of you guys use your hard-earned money to lose anything. You don't know what you're doing? Don't jump into this, but there is money to be made, and don't use your nest egg for leverage trading. Use a separate portfolio. But I suggest learn how to trade. Earn you some extra money on BTCC. It's easy. You don't have to KYC, and you don't have to use a virtual private network VPN. This is a wonderful site. They've been around since 2011. Give them a shot. Also, when you earn that extra money, you can store that on your Decent wallet. Decent wallet is as safe as you keep your seed phrase. It's a wonderful product, and you can get the discount by using the link. It's the only way to get the affiliate discount, and that is to use an affiliate link. So that link is popping up on the upper right side of your screen, and it is the one that you will use. You will also get free shipping. Pick you up a Decent wallet today. Secure your assets. If you don't have them stored in a wallet and sitting on an exchange, then you're at risk. So pick you one up today. Thank you. So for one, let's take you over to UNDP.org. And the reason why I want to do that is to point out this. The terminology matches up. Now, I know you've seen some things from January. You're like, oh, this is old. I'm just going to jump right out of the video. Bye. No. No, not at all. I'm going to give you also some brand new updates that will expand upon it. So kind of treat it kind of like when you open up a book or maybe a magazine or whatever the case be, right? You open it up from the beginning. You got to get to the end, right? Do we watch movies that just jump into the middle or the end immediately? I don't know. Maybe this day and age we do. Maybe Gen Z does it every day. Nothing against them. They are our future. But nonetheless, look at this. New tech, new partners transforming the digital or the development in the digital area. January 21st, 2026. I'm going to get into the highlights on why I'm pointing this out. So the publication, which is a snapshot of UNDP's blockchain practice, explores how UNDP is engaging with blockchain technologies as part of its broader effort to support inclusive, future-ready public systems. Again, even like Quant Gilbert-Verdian, he always points out what's future-proof. Situated within the context of accelerating digital transformation and shifting development finance, the publication explains why and how UNDP works with blockchain. Not as a standalone solution, but as an element with a systems-based approach to innovation, strategic foresight, and public sector reform. Look what it also mentions here. It focuses on building pathways for governments and public institutions to explore emerging technologies on their own terms, guided by a public purpose, principles, safeguards, and development outcomes. Drawing on 42 practical use cases from across regions, the report illustrates how experimentation, new partnership models, and public digital infrastructure, think about that, can help strengthen institutions, improve transparency, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so for one, while there's a lot to unpack here, also keep in mind that they specifically mentioned there needs to be an ecosystem. Look at this. It says UNDP has a growing practice at the intersection of digital transformation. So again, is this not adding up? Innovation, development finance, and it is informed by collaboration with governments, public institutions, and a range of technical ecosystem partners. Again, what would be one of those ecosystem partners? Things like Stellar. Now, some of you are going to be like, I need it to say Stellar. Show me the receipts. Okay, I'm ahead of you. Boom, right here, innovation.eurasia.undp.org literally shows the proof of Stellar and UNDP. Oh, okay, Maximus, you got my attention. I'll stay. All right, thank you. I appreciate you. What we see here is United Nations Development Program and Stellar Development Foundation join forces to advance blockchain solutions for financial inclusion. That actually happened a while ago. In fact, all the way back in January 27, 2025. Now, watch this. For one, it says UNDP and the Stellar Development Foundation are in that partnership aiming at harnessing blockchain technology to accelerate progress toward meeting the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and promoting financial inclusion worldwide, right? Worldwide. Now watch this. We jump down to here. They even talk about harnessing Stellar Network open source tools to enhance access to digital financial services, facilitate transparent, efficient cross-border transactions. So this is good. These are the things that we want to see, right? And of course, the quote Danelle, you kind of get the gist of it all, because at the end of the day, this quote does matter. And it says, we are excited to be part of this crucial effort to drive innovation and empower communities around the world. Right. Absolutely. Now, what I want to do is I want to take you over to here. Danelle Dixon shared just a couple days ago on May 20th how Circle CCTP is live on Stellar.org, and it allows USDC to move natively across chains. No wrapped assets, no custodial bridges, settled in seconds. That part about no wrapped assets, why am I pointing that out? Well, again, it kind of makes me wonder if Stellar is literally white labeled this area of their product and services, because what is Quant Network doing with layer 2.5? Over Fusion layer 2.5. What they're doing is they provide a solution, and shout out to Crypto Mike. We talked about this in a video, which I'll give you an end screen to that video if you can understand it more. But I think it's like a $42 billion problem. It's at least $40 billion that I'm aware of that exists in blockchain and DLT. And again, Quant Network solves the wrapped token problem. And again, what do we see here? Stellar is pointing that out. No wrapped assets, no custodial bridges, settle in seconds. So again, think about that. Would this be part of that mix? A product, if you will, that would be white labeled. So people call it private labeled, right? So it could be. We'll never know that. And it might not ever matter, right? Again, with Quant, it's all about, what's part of that plumbing. Just like, again, even Circle and Stellar want to be part of that plumbing. Some people say, yeah, they're the plumbing too, right? But there's different parts in that plumbing. So what does this mean? Deeper liquidity, programmable cross-chain transfers, and a stronger payments network. Think about that. Going further down, some people are going to be like, well, it's only Stellar that posted that. No, Circle also posted it too, and they did the day before. They did on May 19th. And the reason why I want to point that out is because CCTP, again, live on Stellar, and it says here specifically, cross-chain transfers, deposits and swaps, programmable treasury, rebalancing, cross-chain payments, settlement, cross-border payments. And if you go over to their website, mentions the same thing. Deliver the best cross-chain experiences. Again, fast, efficient cross-chain swaps. Again, all these things kind of obviously matter. And here's another thing that you may not even be aware of. Circle has programmatic burning and minting. So when we talk about Circle, the pairing, of course, with Stellar does matter. And last I checked, I think Circle does 20% of the entire world's stablecoin transactions is represent 20% from Circle that's on chain. Obviously, USDT is the dominant force, but nonetheless, they're worth pointing out, right? Absolutely. Let's take you into a recent document. This is from the United States state.gov, I should say, which is the United States Department of State, if you want to be technical. United States pledges additional $1.8 billion in life-saving humanitarian funding to OCHA's Humanitarian Reset and shares powerful results from the Trump administration's UN Humanitarian Reform Agreement. Again, pretty recent. I'll give you ones that are literally brand new. In this, you see here, there's a coordination of the United States and the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, OCHA, and the United States announced, of course, an additional $1.8 billion in humanitarian funding for OCHA's country-based pool of funds and hyper-prioritized life-saving humanitarian assistance activities. So again, this is right up Stellar's alley, right? Absolutely. A little bit more about this. Please keep in mind the United States and OCHA did in fact sign that first humanitarian reset agreement back on December 29th, 2025 in Geneva, Switzerland. It was alongside an anchor for a U.S. pledge of $2 billion in support for 18 country-based and crisis-level pool funds. Again, the reason why I want to share this with you and why I am doing just that is because I want you to recognize if I'm going to talk about Ripple with the IMF, you also got to keep in mind that, yeah, the IMF, they'll never use Bitcoin ever again as a lender of last resort to save countries like, obviously, El Salvador. They tried that, didn't meet the requirements, I should say, their rules, their guidelines, and they said they'll never do it again. So as a result, while we've already been there and done that with Ripple, right, when it comes to the IMF connections and, of course, Ripple in itself and the numerous documents, right? If you're brand new here, go to the Maximus Crypto video section. You can click on the playlist. I have literally over 1,000 videos at this particular point on there. Not necessarily XRP specific, but nonetheless, we already cover that. So if I'm going to look at Ripple and the IMF, we should look at the UN and, of course, Stellar. And look what it says here. Since then, both the United States and OCHA have been hard at work operationalizing that agreement, delivering critical assistance in the field, record time, implementing robust new oversight and accountability. And look what it also points out. It points out this is hyper prioritized. World's leading humanitarian donor, which is the United States, set a new benchmark for humanitarian aid delivery and effectiveness, with 92% of funding reaching populations experiencing the highest needs, basically. Again, rapid at scale. Like, who's going to help you be able to scale some of that? Obviously, things like Stellar. Now, let's jump over to here. We see here, you have this document, Historic Memorandum of Understanding with UN OCHA to Advance UN Humanitarian Reforms. Again, U.S. Department of State. And again, establishing a little bit more of what we talked about. And again, scale millions of people to receive those life-saving assistance. Who better to understand that? Let's face it, Stellar. Now, here's the brand new update. You jump over to here from aa.com/tr. You see specifically the European Union Council President sees Mexico as a key ally for UN reform. And shout out to all you guys that stay the course of this video, because this will quickly make sense on why you are glad that you stayed here. As for one, this was on May 22nd, literally today. And in the findings, boy, was it ever a big finding. European Council President Antonio Costa acknowledged Mexico as basically being a key strategic ally for reforming the United Nations while calling for building a robust multilateral world order. Some people will call it the New World Order. His remarks came during a speech yesterday, which is Thursday, at the Mexican Senate, but a day before Mexico and the European Union are basically set to modernize, and look at this. Here's the real kicker, everybody. Modernized trade and cooperation agreements aimed at strengthening relations between the sides. European Union needs Mexico. The world needs Mexico. Costa, depending on how you want to pronounce it, warned about growing risks to global stability, as well as many things in that regard, right? But nonetheless, his comments came as the U.S., which is under President Donald Trump, continues to approach geopolitical and economic relationships transactionally. Okay, so think about some of that. And more importantly, when we jump down to here, remember how we talked about some of these things, and specifically like the United States State Gov, more specific, United States Department of State. Watch this. Right here, we call, therefore, for a concerted effort to strengthen international law and multilateral institutions. There's a video coming out that's going to be later today where I go really more deeper into the recent White House announcements where they specifically mention things like digital assets, infrastructure reform, et cetera, et cetera. So to me, this is all matching up. Okay. So check this out and definitely realize the highlights. Okay. Costa said the modernized global agreement is not just an update. Pay attention to this. Of our trade rules. It is a new bridge. Ooh, whoa, what is that? Between Europe and Mexico, broader, more solid, and better prepared for the challenges of the 21st century. It is a commitment to fair trade, shared prosperity, and sustainability, an agreement which will deepen our political dialogue and our cooperation in key areas from security, migration, climate, and the environment to the green and boom, digital transition, innovation, and human rights. If that doesn't say what's going on, I don't know what would. And how about this? I always say the paper trail. This is so good. Clearly, if you stay the course in this video, you see where we're going with this. Stellar reposted this 2 days ago where they point out one of the conversations that they were most excited about from the Stellar House. CDMX is finally live. It says, we sat down with this guy who is basically Daniel Vogel, who's engineer building at Bitso with Bitcoin, to talk about his background and how, despite having every reason to stay in the United States and build a company there, he chose to come back to Mexico and build something that mattered for his country. Today, Bitso moves over 10%, okay, of all remittances between the United States and Mexico and was the first crypto unicorn in Latin America. Oh, you don't say. So for one, when I made that example about LackChain, or not LackChain, but the example of that white label with Quant is basically doing some big things, obviously, down there in Latin America with literally LackChain, like the Latin American dollar, et cetera, right? We've kind of been there and done that. But what's aging incredibly well, and the timing is what you see here. Because again, when we talk about remittances, you can even include things like SHX in the mix, and they both have a Ripple and Stellar plug, to say the least. And again, the timing here is profound. So I'm not going to play this clip. This clip is roughly 44 minutes, all in Spanish, nothing against that. You're more than welcome to nerd it out if you choose to do so. But that's worth citing. The other area you want to jump into is this right here. I want to give you guys, again, in simple layman's terms, why you would see something like a 1.8 billion in new U.S. humanitarian aid funds going into the UN's OCHA, which is OCHA, and how Stellar could directly tie into that, right? So for one, if you're not aware of it, OCHA coordinates emergency aid money and often funnels it into pool funds. Please listen to me on this. Again, I'm trying to make it real simple for you to understand. Again, why did I take all the time to do this? Because I want to put it now into layman's terms. So when you think about those pool funds, that gets sent to crisis zones, things for like food, shelter, cash, and to help for people fleeing war or disasters. Right now, that money moves through banks like your NGOs and other local partners. And that, of course, can be slow, expensive, and basically means that you're going to have fees that are going to eat like 3% plus. It's basically hard to track perfectly, right? But some of it gets stuck in bureaucracy. Oh boy, do I hate bureaucracy, right? I mean, how many times have you gone to like a hospital or basically dealt with like healthcare or whatever, and it's just, my God, I mean, it is one of the most bureaucratic agencies out there, to say the least. I mean, it's ridiculous. Even our government, there's so much bureaucratic red tape. But yeah, picture this. This even gets stuck in bureaucracy, right? That red tape. Again, it's tough to prove every dollar reached the right person. All right. Now I got your attention. Stellar changes that by letting aid groups, for example, like the UN partners, to turn part of those funds into digital dollars, obviously like stablecoins, such as USDC with Circle, and be able to send them straight to people's phones in the field. I had to pause there for a moment. I was having like a Crypto Hulk moment. Didn't want to cough in the mic. Shout out to Crypto Hulk. I'm glad he served. Anyway, here's the layman's breakdown. Number one, it's speed. Okay, so funds arrive in moments instead of weeks. There's no waiting for wire transfers or bank approvals in unstable countries. Number two, it's low cost. There's almost no fees. Yes, almost no fees. I mean, we know about that, especially when it comes to Stellar, right? So while there's almost no fees, that's a way of having more of the $1.8 billion actually help people on the ground instead of getting lost to banks or middlemen. I hate that. I cannot stand the whole idea that even like if I donate to like a charity, you guys probably done this at some point in your life too. Like, how many examples have we seen where 70 or 80% of what you donate to a charity, the middleman takes that, and then, geez, on every dollar, like you donate $1, and who you're truly needing to help, that person only gets like maybe 20 cents of it. It's ridiculous. So think about Stellar, think about blockchain, think about how DLT changes that, right? Absolutely. So let's talk about transparency and tracking. Every transfer is recorded on a public ledger. And so that's obviously blockchain. Donors like the United States government, or OCHA, again, OCHA, where taxpayers can see it in real time, where the money went down to the individual recipient, of course, if that's needed. And basically that means that's going to be without anyone being able to erase or hide the record. This builds trust and accountability. And let's face it, in some of these really controversial third world countries and whatnot, you think their governments has never deleted records? Oh yeah, they're definitely doing that. They're taking state control and, again, create dictatorships left and right. We don't want to see that anymore. Blockchain changes all that. Number 4 is the point I want to get into. Yes, this point, one more, will be number 5. The bank. There would be no bank account required. Recipients just download a simple wallet app on their phone, and they can spend the digital dollars or cash them out at, of course, like local stores and partners like MoneyGram. How many times have you seen Stellar mentioned MoneyGram, right? They're really proud about that partnership, but it's perfect for refugees or disaster victims who don't have traditional banks. And isn't that the point? Yeah, that, of course, means supply and demand kicking in. All right, what about portability? Yes, portability. If someone has to flee across the border, which we've seen this, especially with all the crazy things going on in the world that we live in, if somebody has to cross or flee their nation, go across the border, their aid money travels with them digitally. Yes, digitally. There's no lost cash or frozen accounts. That right there would create supply and demand. And some people say, well, how come we didn't see that with the whole thing of Stellar aid with Ukraine? I encourage you to maybe look into that a little bit more, because in light of that, again, that was during the peak of things like crypto winter. Okay. And again, back to the 4-year cycle. We'll talk more about cycles in a collaboration with Smoke, Molt, and Mr. Man a little bit later. Yeah, the guy that dresses up like Spider-Man. Yes. So nonetheless, I want to give you guys more examples because I want to show you that this is real world proof. This already works with UN humanitarian efforts. This is not just theory. No, it's not just theory, because the UN Refugee Agency, which is the UNHCR, I know that's a mouthful, which works hand in hand with OCHA on crises, as we saw in the documents, has used Stellar Aid Assist, which is Stellar's own tool built exactly for bulk aid payouts. And they've been doing it since 2022. And I remember covering this when I was really early to covering altcoins in late 2021 and, of course, going into 2022. They have sent millions, everybody, in cash assistance to displaced families, of course, in Ukraine, Argentina, Bolivia, and elsewhere. I know sometimes when I mention Ukraine, some of you guys get triggered with that. But why? At the end of the day, I'm just sharing research and material. But if that triggers you, it triggers you. There's partners like the International Rescue Committee, the IRC, and basically they have piloted it too. So in reality, funds move as USDC stablecoins on the Stellar network, and it hits people's phones instantly. And the whole chain is traceable, of course, on the blockchain. If you want to verify more about that, go to reliefweb.com and check out more about that. So you may be asking, Maximus, I need you to tell me why this fits the specific U.S. funding, like the shielded part. Hey, I'm ahead of you, and I'm glad you're paying attention, that you're still here. So the announcement stressed that these funds have no extra conditions attached and stick to the, of course, pure humanitarian principles. And that basically means needs-based and impartial help. Stellar, on the other hand, with their system, as we know, is neutral tech. Kind of like, picture Switzerland. Switzerland's like a neutral country, so Stellar, yeah, neutral. It doesn't care about politics or ideology. It just delivers more efficiently and lets OCHA, yes, OCHA, prove it stay clean and on target. That aligns perfectly, of course, with the humanitarian reset deal. And when you think about that, that deal is between the U.S. and, of course, OCHA. And what that basically means is we would see more results, less waste, and more full accountability. In practice, picture it like this. OCHA, or its implementing partners, could route portions of the pool of funds through Stellar for what's referred to as last mile and cash distributions in the 21 countries targeted. making the whole process faster and more verifiable without triggering any traditional banking headaches or policy red tape, like I point out with bureaucratic nonsense. What's the bottom line for you, me, and everybody else who's listening? Well, it basically means Stellar wouldn't replace the U.S. big banks, or I should say the big U.S. to OCHA transfers, excuse me, not the big banks. But it wouldn't do that in itself, but instead it was supercharged. Yeah, supercharged. Kind of like picture a P-51D Mustang, baby, absolutely screaming across the skies of Europe. And with that beautiful Rolls-Royce Merlin engine, right, taking on the opposition. Shout out to all you guys that had family that served, right? I want to take a moment, of course, before I finish this point and recognize that it is Memorial Day weekend. And basically, let's face it, we have a lot to be thankful for, right? Do we not? I myself, on my dad's side, there was Bob and Frank, and they served in the U.S. Army during World War II. And of course, they survived that war, thank God. But when they served, they actually helped liberate a couple Nazi concentration camps. And the sad thing that I'm seeing a lot nowadays is that there is people out there, nothing against them, people like Myron Gaines, who are denying the Holocaust, saying it's incredibly exaggerated. I'll never forget being told the stories as a kid that Bob and Frank, they were there. Yeah, they were there. And while they helped liberate a couple of Nazi concentration camps and see the poor guys there, yeah, the Jewish people there that were suffering and whatnot, they were lucky to meet people like President Eisenhower, who was General Eisenhower at that particular point in time. And Eisenhower said to them, take pictures of what happened here, record film, because someday, somewhere, some bastard is going to say that this never happened. And while I have nothing personal or any hatred towards Myron Gaines and people like that, I will understand the point that he's trying to make, but at the same time, I also just shake my darn head when I hear people like him saying that the Holocaust was incredibly exaggerated. And I think about, obviously, Bob and Frank and when they were there and obviously how they served. And of course, they passed away years ago. And so I just want to give a shout out to them on this Memorial Day weekend and recognize their service to our country. And maybe you guys recognize that as well, the service to some of your soldiers and sailors and airmen who served. Maybe you're across the pond. The British don't get enough recognition of what they did. My God, can you imagine what the world would look like if you guys lost the Battle of Britain? But it's a story for another day. Definitely want to recognize them. And I also want to recognize that even though it's Memorial Day weekend, that the World War II generation, if you're lucky to actually meet a World War II vet who's still alive, because they're becoming rare nowadays, if you happen to see one in like the supermarket or something like that, or anywhere, even though you may feel out of place, maybe stop and thank them for the service. I know this is not Veterans Day, but even like people serving the Korean War, they're getting really up there in age, or Vietnam vets and so on. Nonetheless, I just wanted to take a moment and recognize some of those family members, people, and so on. So I'll get back to this point and also point this out. So we just talked about what would be supercharged, right? So that money would actually reach people in need and turn aid from slow, leaky pipes into a clear, instant stream. Yeah, instant stream. Doesn't that sound kind of like similar to Ripple with what they're doing with their instant stream with on-demand liquidity? Yes. So my analogy of, if we're going to look at Ripple with the IMF, we should also look at Stellar with the UN. And basically, if you're wondering if this is already happening, it's happening. And it's happening at scale with UN agencies. So scaling it up for bigger pots like this, 1.8 billion for future ones or other future ones, it's a natural step for efficiency-focused humanitarian work. If you want more details on Stellar specifically, check out my playlist. Go to the video section of Maximus Crypto, and you will see a bunch of Stellar videos. And in fact, most of them are not time sensitive, right? It's the deep dives. That's what I specialize here in. Yeah, I'll give you guys breaking news from time to time, and you've seen a lot of that lately, but nonetheless, I want to provide that to you guys. Hey, this time around, instead of doing a code word, if you listen to the end, I want to do something a little bit different. And what I want you to do is, maybe there's somebody in your family who served. Maybe it wasn't World War II. Maybe it wasn't the Korean War, aka the Forgotten War, Vietnam, whatever it is, maybe something recent, okay? But nonetheless, share with them or share in the comments who you hold dear and who you remember, because these guys did pay the ultimate sacrifice, and I will never stop talking about them. I remember when I used to teach history, I'll never forget how excited I would get, especially teaching social studies and teaching the whole thing of the Normandy invasion and D-Day and all that. That was my favorite time of the year to teach. And I'll never forget some of the kids, they shout out to my old fifth and sixth grade class, but especially the fifth graders. The fifth graders seem to appreciate a lot more. They always say, Mr. Stanley, please tell us more World War II stories. And shout out to my late great dad. He's been passed away since December of 2023. And growing up, man, he shared some of the best stories of what happened in World War II and whatnot. And I'll never, ever forget it. Guys like Jimmy Doolittle and, the Doolittle raid. And, oh, man, I could talk you guys' ears off. Maybe I should start a history channel. Nonetheless, this is Maximus Crypto. May the Lord Jesus bless you all. I truly mean that. Stay the course when it comes to some of these assets. I think we're going to be really glad that we did. I'm rooting for the success for each and every one of you guys. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to flood a lot of this stuff, and that's okay. We have to be open to hear a different point of view. We got to stop being a society of only one point of view. Shout out to the late, great Charlie Kirk. Whether you like him or not, that gentleman gave his life trying to get us to get back to the whole thing of agreeing to disagree. I'll see you guys in the next video. Over and out. Bye-bye.